What's happening, independent music fans all over the world? This is your boy Testify to the Music, bringing you another segment of Testify Reviews, the segment where we spotlight different independent artists around the world and break down their most recent projects. Today's artist is going to be the independent artist known as A.K.A. Fisher. So turn your volumes up as we dive into the Sane Asylum. Caution, this might cause craziness.
In here is where they at though? Hey, can I stand up? Yeah, man, they so don't listen to Christian rap cause the watered down version. No, I got a question. Who in here is 116? 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 Right here. Who in here is 116? Right here. Who in here is 116? Right here. You heard me. You who's 116? Get him.
Who is A.K.A. Fisher, you might ask? A.K.A. Fisher was born and raised in Lansing, Michigan. At the young age of 14, he began working on an album that he didn't fully understand at the time. The incredible 10-year journey it took him to complete the album shows how God delivered him from depression, saved his life, and rescued him from the pit of doubt that had been keeping him from experiencing the sort of relationship with Jesus Christ that fueled his parents' ministry. His project, the Sane Asylum, is an accumulation of all of his struggles and has finally been released to the public as of January 1st, 2016. The 17 tracks on it are a collection of the many life lessons he learned along the way. A.K.A. Fisher has stated that this album is like a private tour of the thoughts in his head, or so he commonly calls it, the Sane Asylum. Now that we've learned a little bit about his backstory, let's dive straight into this interesting album because I'm pretty sure you're interested to know more. What is this album about, you might ask? Now, the album is a 17-track story that is told over the course of each song. The main purpose behind the album is to take the listener on a flashback journey into his unique story of deliverance to the Sane Asylum. There's actually a multitude of stories being told. For example, one of our spotlight songs, Uncle Screwtape, talks about this being who loves to see you in pain and tries to make you feel meaningless. I know for me, once I really dived into listening to the beginning of that song, that's the initial reaction and feeling that I got. But really, once you get into the heart of the album, you'll find yourself relating to A.K.A. Fisher the more and more he dwells into his story. If you made it this far into the video, then you must really be interested in his album. So we're going to move into a segment that I have dubbed the Spotlight Song area. This is where we spotlight a few of the songs that I really thought that stood out to me that I think that would also stand out to the listener as well. The first one we have is called It's a Jesus Thing. The next one we have is called Uncle Screwtape. This is what I mentioned briefly in the About section of the album. Next we have Apples and Oranges featuring Diligent. And lastly we have Who's 116 featuring Rectify. So everyone, please continue to follow along as we dive even more in depth with these 4 songs. Again, we have It's a Jesus Thing, Uncle Screwtape, Apples and Oranges featuring Diligent, and Who's 116 featuring Rectify. Let's jump right into the spotlight. So diving straight into the first song we're going to be spotlighting, we have It's a Jesus Thing. And right off the bat, I can definitely say this is actually one of my favorite songs off of here, along with the other 3 that I've also picked. And I think you guys are going to be able to relate to this, and I think you're going to actually like this one as well. This one pretty much is talking about how people are often question, why Christians do certain things, why they act a certain way, why do they raise their hands and praise somebody that they can't see. And he pretty much just says it's a Jesus thing. He said that you're not going to be able to fully understand it or be able to fully comprehend it ultimately until you get on board or until you experience him for yourself. It's a really interesting song, and what I've already noticed, just from listening to this whole entire thing and this song in general as well, is his flow kind of reminds me of Eminem. Now, I already know people are going to be blowing up the comment section saying, wait a minute, how could you compare this guy to Eminem? Eminem is like the greatest rapper alive. Look, I didn't say he was Eminem. I said his flow reminded me of Eminem because of his constant wordplay that he has in each of his verses and each of his songs that he delivers. And you can definitely tell, and especially in this one, the wordplay, it is constant, and it just kind of reminds me of something that Eminem would do. And the beat does as well. It fits, and it sounds like something that Eminem would ride to as well. But again, it's a Jesus thing. He's talking about essentially people aren't going to be able to get, this song or get, what Christians are all about, because you have to experience it for yourself. And also in the song, he also, cast a little bit of shade on some of the other artists we have here who aren't necessarily good for certain listeners, that love to dwell into, well, this is what you need to have in life. You have to have lots of women. You have to have money and power and respect and all this other stuff. So he's essentially casting shade on a little bit of them, but in a good way, saying that people are going to continue to believe that lie because it's something that they can see. They can see fortune and fame in front of them, but they can't see heavenly fortune and fame because we won't be able to experience that until after we pass away from this earth, unfortunately. So, of course, people are buying into the actual reality that is earthly riches. So I definitely recommend it. Check out It's a Jesus Thing. Jumping straight into the next song, we have Uncle Screwtape. Now, the way he puts this song, essentially it's talking about there's this demon, and of course he's making a reference to Satan here, and he calls him Uncle Screwtape. And what he essentially does is, like I mentioned about a section, he loves to cause chaos and destruction. And essentially this song is him talking to the listener, or how it was trying to talk to A.K.A. Fisher and tell him, look, I'm going to give you a guidebook on how to influence people, how to get inside their heads and confuse them, and how to go about instilling certain ideals and in their head, so that when other people who are Christ followers or Christ believers try to come to them with certain things, they're just going to automatically block that or shut that out of their mind, because they are like, no, I heard this and this is what I'm going along the lines of. Like I said, this is very interesting. Of course, this is also a play off of the old folklore called Wormwood. If you don't know what Wormwood is, go check that out. Just Google Wormwood, and it should pop up what Wormwood is. But this is a weird song. Like I said, essentially it's just the guy Uncle Screwtape, and of course it's a play on the word Satan. He's saying, I'm Satan, and I'm trying to give you this guidebook on how to influence the youth of today to do my bidding without them even knowing it. So essentially, here he's talking about, hey, I want you to go out and do this mainstream rap. I want you to go out and do this, and I want you to instill it in your music. And I want you to use that to influence people. You often hear people talk about the Illuminati and how they're this big society who apparently gets with these artists, these big higher up artists, and they put hidden messages and stuff inside their songs because they're trying to incorporate that into the human mind to the point where it's essentially brainwashing certain people. Now, of course, if you type in Illuminati, all kinds of stuff are going to pop up. All types of artists are going to pop up. I'm not going to focus in on that, but just giving you a little backstory about what this song kind of is also talking about in the grand scheme of things. It's talking about the Illuminati and the Great World Order and everything. Again, if you Google that, it'll definitely pop up. But that's what he's talking about here on Uncle Screwtape. It's definitely a very weird sounding song. I guess it fits because, again, it's called the Sane Asylum. And again, like I mentioned also in the About section, that this is talking about his journey. So I guess this is one of the processes that he went through, because I know I've often, struggled with that, being a former mainstream artist who used to gangster rap. I didn't care about the well-being or safety of others. All I care about was glorifying myself and possibly making a profit off of what I could do. And so the music that I was saying to others, I had no idea it was having such a big impact and influence on them. Because again, at the time, my mind was clouded. I wasn't thinking about Christ at all. I was thinking about myself. And so this is the same thing here with this song, Uncle Screwtape. So Uncle Screwtape, check that out. Again, it's a very weird song, but I think you guys are definitely going to enjoy it. especially if you're into the creepy aspect of rapping and everything that goes along with it. Again, this song is set up like a story, like a guidebook. He's giving you chapter 1, 2, 3, 4 about how to do this and how to live life and how to influence others to do the wrong thing. So diving into the next song, we have Apples and Oranges featuring Diligent. Now, right off the bat, the song jumps right into it. The main hook of the song saying apples and oranges, saying that what you're talking about is completely different from what I'm talking about. He's saying like, hey, this subject that you're trying to talk about is completely different. Apples and oranges, pretty much. You've heard the saying where people will be like, oh, well, this is just like this. And they're like, no, it's not the same. It's apples and oranges. For this instance, some people might say, oh, well, Christian rap is the same thing as regular rap. No, it's not. It's apples and oranges. You have one that's glorifying self or glorifying other certain things, while the other half of it is glorifying Christ ultimately through it. The message might sound the same and the beat might sound the same, but overall the content is not the same. So that's what he's saying here with the apples and oranges. Now, when Diligence part came in, you can definitely tell there was a switch here. Honestly, the flow is a little different. I was trying to think of an artist I could kind of compare this to, but honestly, it's a little hard to, and I'm not saying that's necessarily a good thing or a bad thing. I like what he was saying, but his delivery was just a little bit different here, as opposed to A.K.A. Fisher, whose delivery here, once again, I can honestly state that it kind of reminds me of Eminem's flow, the constant wordplay and everything. And then the speed he exhibits here, again, it's not like Tech Nine or Twista Fast here. And then for you guys who don't listen to mainstream fast, not like Canon or Tadashi fast. Pretty much, it's like, I want to say it's like medium going into fast. But again, the wordplay is here. It's constant, especially with A.K.A. Fisher. Now, again, diving in the whole concept of apples and oranges, we're talking about two different things here. One line that I like that he mentioned is sometimes the church, they want certain preachers up there to kind of whisper into their ear and tell them that it's okay to live in your sin, that God is going to love you for who you are. But then when you have a preacher who actually gets up there and tell you that it's not okay to live in your sin, it's not okay, then that's when people will be like, no, I don't want to hear that. I want to be lied to. I don't want to be told the truth. I've always been on the side of, look, I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you. I want to know the truth. I'm that way now. At one point in my life, I could honestly say, yeah, I wanted to be lied to. But these past couple of years, and especially going along with my fast, and again, I don't want to make this too much about me, but I just know this song, Apples and Oranges, related to me. Because I'm more so on the line of what A.K.A. Fisher is saying, no, we need to stick to the truth, because lying is not doing anything. Look where lying has essentially got us in this world. It has not helped anybody whatsoever. So I think we do need more people telling the truth, and we need to stop trying to be like apples and oranges, trying to make something the same when it's completely the opposite and not the same. So going into the final song of our spotlight, we have Who's 116 featuring Rectify. Now, this is the song that you guys heard in the intro. Now, what this one is, it's talking about who is 116. If you guys don't know, based off the scripture, Romans 1:16, for I am not ashamed of the gospel. You most notably might know it because of Lecrae and his group, who call themselves 116, modeling after that scripture of Romans 1:16. And you've heard it mentioned in numerous songs as well. You've heard other artists mention it as well. And pretty much he's sitting here and he's just asking a listener, are you unashamed? Are you a part of the 116 clique? Do you believe Christ came and died for your sins? Do you believe that Jesus is real? Do you believe that his Father sits at the top of the throne and is reaching down and looking at us and keeping a safe watch on us? Do you have faith that Jesus is who he say he is? Do you have faith that Jesus came down to earth and rose 3 days later? Do you believe that he is sitting right next to his Father on that throne? He's asking, are you a part of the unashamed clique? Are you a part of the shame clique, what you could call it? The clique who refuses to accept the truth, or the clique who just doesn't want to have anything to do with God or want to have anything to do with Christ in their lifestyle, in the choices that they make, in their mentality, whatever the case would be. He's asking, who here is 116? So again, this song, I definitely like. It has to be my favorite one, along with It's a Jesus Thing. I liked all 4 of these songs that I picked out because I like the concept behind them. But if I had to pick which one would be my favorite, I'd have to say Who's 116 would be the first one. Of course, It's a Jesus Thing would be number 2. Then, of course, Apples and Oranges. And then the Uncle Screw tape would have to be last. But all of them really resonated with me. I can honestly say this one did too as well. And again, it just goes into the question that some people don't like to ask. Are you unashamed? Are you a part of the shame clique or a part of the unashamed clique? You have to ask yourself that. But with that being said, guys, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this on up. Again, my general thoughts on this album, I liked what it was saying. I liked that the story that he was talking about. A lot of what he was talking about, I can definitely relate to. And I know the listener, you guys, as the listeners, can definitely relate to what he's talking about as well. Great content. Again, like I said, the wordplay here is constant. It reminds me of something that Eminem would put out in his earlier days. That's exactly what it sounds like. Now, again, I'm not saying that he is up to the level of Eminem. Don't jump into the comment section saying, oh my gosh, this guy said he's just like Eminem. This guy's not. I'm not saying that at all. I look at it as like every artist is his own. He is not comparable to anybody else. Everybody is in their own lane. Nobody's in the same lane. But here, again, the wordplay was constant. I absolutely have loved it. There really weren't any songs here that I didn't like. The only ones I didn't care for were maybe some of the interludes, but that's because I've never been a big fan of interludes or anything, unless it's furthering the story of the upcoming song that's after the interlude. And that's definitely the case here. You could definitely tell him that God has brought this young man from the brinks of hell all the way to sitting at the steps of heaven. Again, this album, it's great. And again, when I first looked at it, when I first received this, I was like, the Sane Asylum. I said, I don't know. And of course, like I said, when I first started listening to it, I had this mindset of saying, oh, it's just going to be talking about this guy and how he's crazy for Christ. No, this guy lets you go within the inner workings of his mind and takes you piece by piece with each song, letting you know exactly what Christ has done, leading up all the way to the very end with the last song, which is Method to the Madness, which sums up everything that the album and everything that the songs were hoping to accomplish. It sums it up in one nice little song. I definitely recommend you checking it out. I'll make sure I have a link posted in the description below so you can go download it as well. Also, I'll make sure I have links so you can go follow him on Facebook and on Twitter. And I'll have links to the independent label he's signed to as well. They also have some great artists that I might be reviewing later on down the road as well. But rating-wise, I'd have to give this one a 4 out of 5 stars. Great pick. It's a great pick. I absolutely recommend it. You're definitely going to enjoy it. I felt myself getting more and more feeling like this song was made for me because his story is so similar, and it just was really speaking to me and really talking to me about what was going on. Again, I can't recommend this highly enough. You definitely need to go download it or go buy it. Support this artist. Support this record label. I like what they stand for. I like what they're trying to do here. It is definitely a great combination. It's something that can reach both Christians and non-believers as well. So with that being said, guys, I'm wrapping this video on up. Again, I want to thank you so much for everything. Thank you so much for the support. Thank you for sticking with me through all of this. Again, I apologize for not having this video up a little earlier. I had a lot going on this week. We had a youth pastor who is currently out of town at the moment, so I had to step up in my youth leader role and actually take on some new responsibilities that I'm glad that I was able to do, and I was glad that I was able to serve my youth ministry even more. But again, I'm actually going to start moving these reviews to Thursday because most times I don't get these up until midnight or usually leading into Thursday, probably around 1 or 2 o'clock. So I'm just going to start releasing these on Thursdays. I'll make sure all my websites will reflect that as well, reflect this change. Again, thank you so much for the continued support. I'll also make sure I have links in the description as well, so you can go follow me on all of my social media platforms. Also, check out my mixtape, Nightmares. It's still out there. It's still available. It's still free to stream and download at Get Right Mixtapes. I highly recommend it. It's a great mixtape. And again, I highly recommend this album that I just got through reviewing. Again, it's called The Sane Asylum. And again, the artist is called A.K.A. Fisher. Don't sleep on this guy, man. This guy has definitely had a voice, and he's definitely got a gift, and Christ is going to continue to use him and going to continue to use that label, Under the Radar Records, to get their message across. Again, thank you so much for the continued support. I hope you all have a blessed evening, a blessed day, a blessed afternoon, and of course, a blessed weekend as well. And this is your boy, Testify Music, signing out.